I know that you're fluent in Russian and you've met with Putin several times. What was that like, and how would you describe his strengths and weaknesses as a leader?
Yeah, he was one tough guy, and I did spend a lot of time with him. We would chit chat in Russian on the sidelines, but if you're a diplomat, you're probably better off to negotiate in your own language because, as good as my Russian was at that time, it was never going to be as good as my English. And so we negotiated, but I never listened to the translation of him in English because his translators would soften the edges of what he was saying. And by listening to him in the Russian, you could tell how really harsh he could be. He liked to intimidate. He kind of had two modes: intimidate, and he would try to outflank you in the way that he negotiated. But we had a pretty good relationship actually in those years. He liked the fact that I was a Russianist. But you could even see then elements of what's gotten us to where we are. He told me once in a conversation, you know, he said, Condi, you know us. Russia's only been great when it's been ruled by great men like Peter the Great and Alexander the Second. And I thought, okay, that's really quite something. He's going after these czars for whom it was the greatest expanse of the Russian Empire. I realized at that point that this was a true Russian nationalist, and that's what we're seeing in Ukraine. We're seeing somebody who believes that Russia's only going to be great again if the Russian Empire is recreated.
You know, you've been through so many historic situations, and none ever greater than 9/11. Can you tell us what you learned about leadership in managing that crisis?
Well, it is still the most searing event. If you were in a position of authority on September 11th, your determination was to never let it happen again. Because to this day, David, I have remorse for the fact that we didn't somehow see it coming. Look, I think we did everything we knew how to do. We didn't have a system of intelligence warnings that put together what was happening outside the country with what was happening inside the country. We had a wall between what the FBI did, which was inside the country, and what the CIA did, which was outside the country. For very good civil liberties reasons, we organized ourselves that way. But that meant that cues that the FBI might have been getting and cues that the CIA might have been getting weren't unified. After it happened, on the day that it happened, you just operate on instinct. I remember the Secret Service the first plane went into the World Trade Center, and frankly, we thought it was there was some kind of accident. And then when the second plane went into the World Trade Center, we knew that it was a terrorist attack. I was trying to reach the national security principles. Colin Powell was in Peru. They said that Don Rumsfeld, they couldn't reach him. His phone was just ringing, ringing, ringing. We looked behind us on television. A plane had hit the Pentagon. And so the Secret Service came in and they said, you've got to get to a bunker. Planes are flying into buildings all over DC. Under those circumstances, they don't kind of escort you. They pick you up. They kind of carry you toward this bunker. So I remember sort of being levitated toward the bunker. And then stopping to call first my family, saying I was okay. You have to know the Rices and Rays. They would have found a way to DC because those pictures were awful. And then calling the president saying, you can't come back here. And from that moment on, you're just dealing with the consequences. But once you sort of get your bearings the next day or so, it becomes all about not letting it happen again. And we had to really kind of merge what the FBI was seeing with what the CIA was seeing by having George Tenet, the director of the CIA, and Bob Mueller, the FBI director, in the Oval Office every morning sharing information. Later on, we would have better systems through what today is called the National Terrorist Threat Center. But at that time, we literally had to merge it right there in front of the President of the United States. And you suddenly realize the United States of America has not been attacked on its territory since the War of 1812. And so we have none of those systems for internal security. And the good news is I think we've built them out. We're not safe, but we are way safer today than we were on September 11th. And if I'm grateful for one thing, it's that there wasn't another attack during our time in office.